Welcome to this training video for public water systems on providing sufficient evidence to determine if a service line is made of non-lead material. In addition to this video, DEP created a job aid to assist systems in determining sufficient evidence to classify a service line as non-lead. To access this job aid, go to DEP's Lead and Copper Rule Revisions, or LCRR for short, website. The website is linked in the video description. Another easy way to get to the website is to use your favorite search engine and type PADEP LCRR. Here is a depiction of a typical service line in Pennsylvania with joint ownership between the water system and the customer. When a public water system is building their service line inventory, they are required to identify the service line material and the methods used to determine the material on both the system and customer-owned portions. Service line materials are classified into four types: lead, galvanized requiring replacement, or GRR for short, non-lead, and lead status unknown. If a public water system classifies a service line as non-lead, such as copper or plastic, the system must prove that it is not lead through sufficient evidence. There are three different categories of methods for providing sufficient evidence of a non-lead service line. First are the standalone records methods. The next category is the combination of two or more other methods. And the last category are the standalone field methods. Let's look at each one in more detail. We will start with the standalone records methods. In certain circumstances, a record by itself may be sufficient evidence to determine that a service line is non-lead. In other words, the public water system would not need to combine a records review with another verification method. If your records show that the service line was installed or replaced after the effective date of the Pennsylvania lead ban, then the records review alone is sufficient evidence. Starting January 6, 1991, the Pennsylvania lead ban went into effect, which required the use of lead-free materials in construction or repair of public water systems. In order to use these records for verification, the water system should have high confidence that the records are accurate. An example for this type of record would be where the public water system is serving a housing development which was constructed in 1998. For the service lines in this example neighborhood, the public water system would only need to review the records to show it is non-lead. Continuing with the standalone records methods, perhaps the public water system or local government had an ordinance or plumbing codes prohibiting the use of lead service lines prior to the 1991 Pennsylvania lead ban. If you have this, plus a record of the service line installation or replacement showing that the date was after the ordinance or code went into effect, then you have sufficient evidence to verify that the service line is non-lead. Some towns put these ordinances in place in the 70s and 80s when lead started falling out of favor because of health concerns. If the public water system has service lines that do not fall under the standalone records methods, the system can do a combination of two or more identification methods. The methods that can be combined include records review, field verification, and modeling or statistical analysis. Systems without corrosion control treatment can also use fifth leader or flushed water sampling as a combination method. Finally, there are other methods being developed which are subject to approval from the department. Any combination of two or more of these methods would be considered sufficient evidence for categorizing a service line as non-lead. For example, a common approach is to combine records review with a field verification method. Pennsylvania DEP's LCRR Service Line Inventory Training Manual, which is linked in this video description, contains more information on modeling, statistical analysis, and the fifth leader water sampling methods. In this tutorial, we will look more in depth at the options for field methods when combined with another method. The first option for field verification when combined with another method is a visual inspection at an existing access point on the service line. This includes inspecting the service line where it enters a building, such as shown here. Please note that if the service line is split ownership, inspecting the line entering the building provides verification of the customer side material, but not the system-owned portion. If a homeowner refuses access into their home for the water system to view the service line, it is acceptable for the water system to review a photo of the service line provided by the homeowner. The photo must be of good quality so the water system can clearly identify the material type. Some systems may also be able to perform a visual inspection of the service line material in a meter box or similar access pit. Remember, a visual inspection at an existing access point would have to be combined with another method, such as records review, for sufficient evidence to be categorized as non-lead. The next field verification method that can be used when combined with another method is a closed-circuit television, or CCTV for short, inspection outside of the pipe at the curb box. A small diameter CCTV camera can be inserted through the curb box to view the pipe material on either side of the shutoff valve. Here are a few pictures from the work that the City of Pittsburgh performed for their service line inventory investigation. The last field method option is mechanical excavation, which involves the use of a backhoe or other device to dig a pothole test pit to expose the service line. Vacuum excavation is also acceptable. When combined with another method, the mechanical excavation method requires one location on each half, the customer side and the system side of the service line. Note that if you can gain access to the home, visual inspection of the service line entering the building may be a better option for the customer-owned portion. Here is an example. A system has records from 1965 showing the material. Since the service line was installed prior to any kind of lead ban, the records review cannot solely be relied upon for sufficient evidence of non-lead. Therefore, in addition to the record review, an additional method is necessary. The system performs a mechanical excavation on the system side of the service line, and they determine that the line is copper. The customer-owned portion of the service line still needs to be investigated. The homeowner allows access to the basement to do a visual inspection of the service line entry into the home. The system has identified the material as copper. With these methods, the system has provided sufficient evidence for this service line to be categorized as non-lead. As you are watching this video, you might be thinking that public water systems will have to perform a lot of field verifications. That is not necessarily the case. Instead, there are certain conditions in which a public water system can do a representative field verification. If the public water system has high confidence in records for an area within their system where those service lines were installed at the same time, such as a residential neighborhood, you can field verify a subset of service lines. To be considered statistically sound, systems should use the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy's method for representative verifications. A link to Michigan's guidance document is provided in the video description, and you can also find it by doing an internet search for EGLE service line verification. As explained in Michigan's guidance document, for an area with less than 1,500 service connections, you have to field verify at least 20% of the service lines in that area. Additionally, the guidance document explains how to randomly choose locations within the 20% to field verify. This representative field verification should only be used when the public water system has records with the service line material identified and that the system has high confidence in the validity of those records. For a water system unable to use any of the previous methods and combinations of methods, there are two standalone field methods. First, systems can choose to conduct an internal CCTV inspection of the full pipe length. This method can only be used if the pipe material can be clearly identified from the camera images. The camera should be of high resolution and equipped with a light source. This method is ineffective when the service line is coated with corrosion scale. Because of the potential scale disturbance in the line, the system should implement risk mitigation measures such as removing and cleaning faucet aerators, flushing and providing pitcher filters to the affected customers. You can also check DEP's website for additional information on best management practices for systems when conducting internal CCTV inspections. The other standalone field method is mechanical excavation at 3 or more locations across the length of the service line. Because it is not feasible to excavate the entirety of the service line to view the pipe material, a public water system can choose to mechanically excavate at least 3 points along the service line to identify the material. These 3 points include a location along the service line between the curb stop and the building, which has to be at least 18 inches away from the curb stop. Another location along the portion of the service line between the curb stop and the water main, which has to be at least 18 inches from the curb stop. The third location must be along the longer portion of the service line, which is typically the customer-owned portion, and if that is the case, it can be a visual inspection inside the home where the service line enters, or a second mechanical excavation. Just like described earlier, the visual inspection inside the home should be conducted by water system personnel, or a photo taken by the homeowner can be used if it clearly shows the pipe material. Some systems may have records for the system side, but no records on the customer side. Instead of the full 3-point method, these systems can perform a 2-point verification on the customer side. We have now covered all of the current methods to verify that a service line is non-lead. Pennsylvania DEP's service line inventory template requires you to input the verification methods for each service line. Use the link in the description of this video to view the DEP inventory template tutorial. Thank you for watching this video training for public water systems on providing sufficient evidence to determine if a service line is made of non-lead material. For additional assistance on sufficient evidence for non-lead service lines, please contact the Bureau of Safe Drinking Water at area code 717-787-9633 or at the email address shown on the screen.